Hello, hello. I am so delighted to welcome you to this episode of Leadership and Aviation Podcast. I have a friend of mine on today that I am just absolutely thrilled to introduce you to if you don't already know him. Benoit Defforge is the president of Airbus Corporate Jets, and I have recently met with him in France and found his leadership style and story fascinating and have invited him to be part of the podcast today. Benoit, merci beaucoup for joining us today on the podcast.
Thank you very much, René, and good afternoon to you. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Well, thank you so much. I know you are joining from the creative studio in the factory in Toulouse, and I am here in Mexico.
My back, yeah. You cannot see it maybe in the back, but in the back we have the shape of the 220 and then a small model of the 220, but a lot of other things that you discovered a few months ago, and I think you love it.
I do. I think it's a fantastic airplane, but I also think that you are a fantastic leader. And I think that your journey to get from wine country in the north of France to being the lead of the Airbus Corporate Jet division of Airbus is amazing. Would you share a little bit about how you got to where you are today?
Oh yeah, I can share that. As you said, north of Bordeaux, not exactly the north of France, so close to Cognac, which is a very nice country and very nice area in France, but not so much industrial. And then quite early, I had in mind to become an engineer. It's what I decided quite early. My father wanted me to continue, but the farm, but I made that decision. And then after that, I started to have good results during my university, and then became an engineer. Always passionate by aerospace industry, by shipyard also, but I prefer the three dimension of the aerospace. And then after that, I started in Safran and moved in Airbus in 2003. So nearly 20 years ago. And then I had the chance to meet with a lot of very nice people, some nice leaders who were inspiring me and who pulled me with them a bit higher each time. And it's also one important thing during the whole career to have the people who can help you. It's difficult to define what are the key characteristics, because I think all the leaders are different. One thing is the same for all, I would say, is first you need to inspire the others, because alone you go nowhere. And second thing, I think you need a lot of tenacity and work, because behind the tenacity you have the work, you have the excellence that you are looking for all the time. And it's important because the life is not always with the nice color of your shirts, not always pink, and it's not a long trip, an easy walk in the park. And it's where you can, I think, measure the tenacity and the vision of a leader.
I think that's incredibly important, and I think some people who are younger think that it's an easy climb to get to where you want to go, and that you're always making steady progress. And I don't think that's the case for most leaders. In fact, I think that at one point, your leadership, you felt like you had a great job and you were on a good career track. And then you were tapped on the shoulder, so to speak, to take a different job that you didn't necessarily want, but that really gave you what you needed in order to lead ACJ today. Will you talk a little bit about your shift at Airbus?
You have very good memory. Yes, it happens that sometime, first of all, you have a plan, you imagine something. I have to admit that when I was 20, I would have not imagined to be where I am today. And it's also one thing important is that each step you climb, it opens some new horizon. And with this new horizon, you are ready to climb another step, and and so yeah, it happens to me. After I entered Airbus, I've been working on the business transformation for Airbus and improvement project transformation of the program A330. was in 2003 to 2004. And then the 320, the 380, program started to grow, and I was asked from one Monday to the Friday to move on the 380 in order to take the leadership of the whole electrical system integration on this aircraft. It was not my plan, but at one moment when you have this kind of, it was also an opportunity, very difficult challenge, but also an opportunity to know better Airbus. I entered Airbus in 2003, as I said, and it was a fantastic opportunity to work across the borders in a fantastic program like the 380. It was super hard because the program was so huge, so many people working there, so many different culture. That even if at the beginning I was not super happy for moving from my initial plan in Airbus, I was planned to become the head of the final assembly line, so which was a very nice opportunity for me. And then I moved to the head of electrical system on 380, which was another good opportunity. And for sure, after a few hours, you realize that first of all, you are part of an incredible project. And if some people trust you, you have to be courageous and face the kind of challenge that they are offering to you, because it means that they are considering that your leadership, your experience and skills can bring something to a program like that. So it's also after that you realize that it's also a huge recognition from the leadership of your company, and after that I learned a lot. I learned a lot to work across the various culture. Which I did before, but not in that manner. I always work. I had always been working around the world, working in services. Even when I was at Safran, I was always traveling a lot, and I continue to do so. But working like that, leading a project which is really cross borders with the four main countries who were part of the 380, it was a real fantastic experience when I learned a lot on my leadership style and what you have to do if you want to bring your people, the people with you. Because at the end you can have the best idea, you can know the solution, but if you don't have the people with you to implement this solution, nothing happens. So you can have the best solution on the paper, but if the people are not with you to implement it, nothing will happen. That was a great lesson learned for sure.
Definitely. I think that's amazing. And I heard you say early in the podcast talking about inspiring people and then having tenacity. And I think that you exhibiting the tenacity on this particular project was probably inspirational to your team. What are some of the other leadership traits that you perhaps have, or that you've recognized in others that you think are really positive and really enhance your team there at ACJ?
In the way I feel and I work and I see the leadership, the first thing is to bring a vision. Because you need to bring your people somewhere. You need to define where you want to go. You're not doing that by yourself. You are doing that taking into account the environment, taking into account the team you are working with. So you have the responsibility, being the leader, to put all that together, and then at one moment to say, okay, that's the direction we'll go for. So that's one very important thing. Without a summit to climb, you will never climb a mountain. That's super important for me. The second thing are the values, because the values it's the frame of how the teams are working together. And I would say I never compromise on these values: respect, integrity, courage. You need to be courageous, because sometimes when you are leading, you need to take difficult decisions, including in your vision, because sometimes you have to accept that you have to think different, and we see all the startup arriving, that all will be successful, but they are bringing to us something very important about what can be done with the technology and where we can bring the product. So that's the kind of values. So vision, values, very important. And after that, I would add leading by example. It's not enough. but bringing the energy, bringing the passion, demonstrating that what you are saying, it's what you are doing, and vice versa. It's super important if you want to keep your people with you. I like sailing. Where you are the skipper on a sailing boat, you need to know where you go, and you need to demonstrate in each and every situation, and mostly when it's difficult, and it always happens on a sailing boat, mostly when it's difficult, that you are there for your team. You are there to be with them, not just giving some direction and then do it by yourself. No, they have to do it at one moment by themselves, but you also have to be with them when it's hard. And it's during this hard time, I was speaking about the 380. We had a lot of hard time, that you demonstrate your business of a crew, of a team. And when I'm taking the image of a crew, because in that case, the crew and the way the crew is working together is making the difference when you are facing a storm, and that's super important.
It is. Well, you turned that program into something you were very proud of, and then you went, I think you came straight from the 380 to ACJ. Can you tell me a little bit about that transition?
I came from the 380 to ACJC, which was the outfitting center. So I took the leadership, and I became CEO of ACJC at a time where the outfitting centers, we in Airbus, we were not able to sell more aircraft because outfitting capacities were overbooked. And so the customers wanted to buy some ACJ, but without any outfitting capabilities, it was no way. So we decided to recreate, based on previous experience in Toulouse, this company. It was from scratch creation with only 100 people and 2 hangars and 3 contracts. That was the starting point. And I had some experience when I was beginning of my career on the Falcon aircraft, installing some cabin outfitting and doing things like that. So I put my fingers on that because I like to create. We were speaking about what could be the various characteristics of an entrepreneur. I think if you don't like to create, if you don't like to take risk, forget to be an entrepreneur. You should find something else to do, but don't try to be an entrepreneur. Otherwise, you will never be happy and satisfied, because each time you create, you take risk, and that's the adrenaline of the part of the adrenaline of the entrepreneur. And so it was interesting experience, because it was really creating a company. It was the first time I was doing that. I had already the experience of leading business unit or business with like a company, but really creating a company, creating the competencies, creating the brand, selling around the world, cabin to customers I was not used to work with. It was an incredible experience. And another point which is important for me is curiosity. If you want to learn, if you accept that you are not perfect in the way you are doing, and you're always thinking about how can I learn, how can I improve myself, then you learn all the time and you create more. And that was really an area at this time where I had to learn a lot to create everything. I was not alone, that's for sure, but when you are the conductor of the orchestra, you have to lead. You are not playing the instrument. You're not the violinist. You are just leading. So that was a very exciting time. Finally, it was super successful. We outfitted more than 20 cabin. After that, the move from the Neo to the CO, from the CO to the Neo, reduced the activity around the world, not only for us, but it was a time also where Boeing was moving from the NG to the MAX. So the outfitting business was down during 3 years. So we decided to move this activity to airline activities. And it was the time in 2014 where I took the lead of ACJ, so the overall corporate jet activity within Airbus.
And so you've set a vision. You said earlier that sometimes you have to set a vision that's different from what other people are thinking, and maybe is a little bit outside of the box. And you set a vision for ACJ that's going to be realized and delivered to the first customer in 2023. Can you talk a little bit about the 220 and how that came to be?
if I just take 2 minutes to come back a little on this story, the first big question we had in 2014 was to say, are we going to launch the ACJ 319 and 320 Neo, or do we stop the corporate jet activity because it's not core business? So the first vision for us was to demonstrate and to show again how important is a corporate jet activity for Airbus. It was done. At that time, we successfully launched the 319 and the 320 Neo in ACJ version, and these aircraft were delivered in 2019. So you see that it's a long-term, it's always long-term decision in our industry. So when I was speaking about having a vision and anticipating, because having a vision allow you to anticipate, it's super important. So otherwise you are too late on the market. Then the 350, and then came the pandemics. And at the same time, we took with us the colleagues from Montreal and created the A220 program. And very quickly, it appears to us that this aircraft could be a fantastic corporate jet aircraft. And it was in the middle of the pandemic. So to build the business case, to run all the analysis, we started to work on it just before March 2020. So it was just the end of the travel. I remember I flew back from Montreal the week before the shutdown in Russia, beginning of 2020. So it was really the last moment. After that, we prepared everything through the Visio, like we are doing, and we had to convince the top management of Airbus that it could be a fantastic corporate jet and that the business case can run. And it's what we managed to demonstrate. And we arrived in October with the go. We got it in August, and we launched the product in 2020, October 2020, and we delivered it first aircraft will enter into service in 2023. And if I come back on, not speaking too much about corporate jet, but on the leadership, because it was very interesting in terms of satisfaction, because sometimes also when you are leading, you have a lot of satisfaction, and this is a great satisfaction for personal satisfaction, because as always it's a teamwork, because but we were not so many having that vision that this aircraft will be perfect, and despite the pandemic we should push for launching this project, and I think we did well. The future will demonstrate in 5 years than from now. We'll turn ourselves and we say, okay, was it a good decision or not? For the time being, nothing is demonstrating that it was not a good decision. So I take it on this way. And the market response is good. And when you have the chance to be in a position to make this kind of decision, say, okay, we will bring that to the market, and you manage to get the onboarding of the whole executive committee from Airbus, it's a real achievement and a real pleasure to achieve it.
That is quite an accomplishment. And I've heard a lot about the ACJ 220, that it will be much more competitive than the previous ACJs, just because the interior is not custom every time. And I think that will make a big difference for the clients of the ultra long range jets and those that want a little bit more space. I think it's pretty incredible. And I've met quite a few of your team, and they operate around the world. So first, congratulations on the ACJ. And then second, I would love to hear a little bit more about what it's like to manage a truly diverse team, geographically diverse, racially diverse. It is one of the hallmarks of your leadership that you have such a diverse team, and you've managed such a diverse team over the years.
I was speaking a bit earlier about curiosity, and if you put together the respect and the curiosity, I think you can manage all the team around the world. Why I'm saying that? First of all, because if you consider the respect, then you will respect the difference. and so you are ready to learn from the others. You are ready to accept that they have a different view, different culture, different history than you have. It means that when arriving in a country, when working with people in another country which is definitely different from yours, uh, you have to it's a question of mindset. You have to be ready for that, and as soon as you're ready for that, and then you ask question, you have this curiosity. So first the respect and then the curiosity. I wouldn't say it become easy, but it's not so difficult. It's not so difficult. If you are not putting that two key elements as foundation of the worldwide relationship, nothing will happen. That's the first thing. After that, you bring diversity to your team. And for sure, diversity brings a different angle of view. And when after the speech I had in front during the Iowa Connect, one of the women came to me. He said, "Benoit, you were speaking about bringing a different view while speaking about more women in our space. But which view are we bringing?" And it was a very good question. It was hard for me to answer. And after that, I thought about this question. And I realized that more than what the difference is bringing is that we accept that there will be a difference. And I think it's super interesting. That's what the conclusion I arrived. So I feel interesting. I hope you will find it also interesting. That it's also somebody bringing a different view, but also we accepting that this view is interesting, is potentially interesting, and putting the view together will bring something different. And it's a combination of both. It's not only having a different view, it's also the leaders to accept that having a different view will bring something much more powerful than only one view. I was speaking about building the vision, and building the vision it's also this kind of things that you are just building time after time. You are picking. I like to travel, not only to travel, but you speak, you touch the ground, you see how it works really, and then you feed yourself with a lot of things, and then at one moment you can have a clear view of what could be the future, and you build it by time after time. So this is bringing this worldwide leadership is bringing that also.
You know, the thing that I see in you, the characteristic that I would use to describe your leadership is humble. I think that great men can be kind to others when they're humble, and I see that in you, and I admire that quite a bit. I wonder if you could tell me what are some things that you recommend to your leadership team that works with you in their development of other leaders in your organization. What are kind of the 2 or 3 things that you come back to time and time again as you're coaching your leaders?
Just one thing interesting with what you said about the characteristic, the word which could characterize myself. Thank you for that. I had some people at one moment when I started this job saying, Benoit is arrogant, which is interesting because it's the complete opposite. And I know that sometimes I can be hard because when you have your vision and you want to achieve it, sometimes it's hard also. So that's and another person said to me, you gain knowing you in the long term, because sometimes that's also a recommendation. Be careful when you have a vision, when you want to achieve something. Be careful not to disconnect yourself from the others, because the others could perceive your determination, your wish to achieve it, as being arrogant and not taking care about the others. That's a point I think which is important. Another thing I used to say to my team: never give up. It come back to tenacity. Never give up, because never overreact neither. You see what I mean? In the timing you are analyzing the situation. The experience is demonstrating that there is a pace to do something. There is the perfect pace to achieve something. If you want to be too quick, It will not work. If you are too long, it will be too late. So having this perfect pace, not too quick, but never give up, is something very important. Because you were speaking about that at the beginning. I know a lot of other entrepreneurs. I don't know one who said to me once it was easy. I never saw that. Maybe you met some, but I never met one. So if one day I will meet one, I will. I'm part of an entrepreneur circle in Toulouse, and we gave our annual prize to a Toulouse entrepreneur, and he was explaining that during the COVID, he divided by 2 his turnover, the revenue of the company, and then just in 2 years he continued to invest and then recover, and he's above 2019. So it's the kind of thing which are always happening when you are an entrepreneur. And so it's why I really think that never give up is more than important. It's not doing everything, but it's not being too much optimistic, but never be pessimistic. That's true. That face the reality. If I continue in this area, face the reality, and that's something important. Never underestimate the reality. Face what is really happening. Accept that sometimes we are all doing mistake. We are all making wrong. In one decision you are taking, 20% will not be so good, and maybe a few ones will be definitely not good. It happens, but it's better to have that rather than not making decision. And so we always go for mistake time after time. The less you do, the best it is, for sure. But you have to face that. The day it happens, you have to face it very in a pragmatic way, I would say. And so when you face it with pragmatism, in that case, you will find a solution. Alors, there is another word I used to say to my teams. I never saw during my career a problem well identified without a solution. Never.
That was some of the best advice that I ever received as a young business person is do not present a problem without having already thought through the solution or several potential solutions, because we're designed to create solutions, not just to identify problems. And as leaders, if we're only identifying problems, we are not inspirational to our employees or our coworkers at all. So I agree with that wholeheartedly.
That's pretty true. Though it's difficult I think I love to share experience more than to give advice, because what I think is interesting is when you share the experience, you cannot transfer or give the experience. You can share, and each and every people who are listening to you or take the time to try to understand what is behind will build. I used to pick some of the elements, some information, some experience around in order to build my own. It's exactly what I think as entrepreneur we can bring to the others, and including the young people. If there is maybe in that case one advice there, I said it during our speech, but also to the entrepreneur there to think different. There, I explained where I started, and maybe at the early beginning of my career, I could have done more. You see, but my family was not in this industry, so it's difficult to dare when a bit alone. I was not totally alone, but without the background, capable to go and sit with your father, your mother, say, "Hey, what do you think about that?" I do that sometimes with my daughters, and when they want to share some and to have some question, it can. So dare to think big, but also dare to go and speak with others. To speak with entrepreneurs. Most of the entrepreneurs, they love to speak and to share. It's also a sort of recognition for ourselves. It's a bit of ego, most probably, but it's so nice to share with the young people.
Well, as we conclude today, you mentioned that you're curious and that you're always learning. What are you focused on learning right now? Currently, what books are you reading, or what area of your leadership are you focused on growing right now?
I'm passionate by sailing, so I'm reading a lot about sailing at the time being. It's not about leadership, but there is one area where we and I try to learn a lot is the US market. Uh, we are discovering with the ACJ 220, we are discovering the US market. And it's an area where I learn, I travel, I read elements in order to understand what are the key differences between the European culture and French culture and the US, not only at the people level, but also at the business level. It seems that when you first start, maybe I will take the opposite in Middle East or in China, it's so easy to see that it's so different. When you travel, even across Europe or in between Europe and US, we have some common origin, but the culture are so different that you are not doing business in the same way on the two sides of the Atlantic. And it's an area where I think we and I still have to learn a lot. I already had an experience when I was in Safran because we were starting the electrical manufacturing in the US, and I was part of this. This project with Safran 20 years ago, but now it's a different thing because it's not production starting; it's developing a business there, and I really push my team to travel there to understand how the business aviation is working there, which is definitely different compared to what we are used to in Europe or in Middle East or in China. It's so different. The maturity is very different. The way the people are working together, interconnected, the paradigm they have, the way they're analyzing the needs are so different than what we are used to in ACJ and in Europe that we have to learn a lot. And it's interesting because I had been the president of ACJ for the last 8 years, nearly 9 now, and each time I have new challenge. Each time some HR are saying, "Benoit, what are you going to? What's your future?" And each time I have new challenge, and this is a fantastic challenge to learn about cultures that like yours.
I love that. So it goes back to the lessons that you learned when you took the A380 project and crossed a border there to learn and embrace some different cultures there. You're using those lessons now as you're hoping to expand into the US market with the ACJ 220. I love how everything that we learn takes us into our next level of leadership. Benoit, thank you so much for joining me today. Are there any final thoughts that you'd like to leave us with as we close?
Well, I think I don't want to repeat myself. A big thanks to you, René, because I was just after the Yawa Connect we had together. You were in Toulouse. I was hosting this Iowa Connect. You came to me with this proposal. I don't know if you remember. I was a bit surprised, and just in one speech, you said to me, "Yeah, I think you have something to share with the other entrepreneur." And I want to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share with some other entrepreneur this short story. Thank you for that, René.
Of course, it's my pleasure, and I always love talking to you. Thank you so much.